What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. I am your host, Rex Ruger, along with, of course, the Nicaraguan nightmare himself, the esteemed Alexis Arguello Puppet.
And I'm your other host, Frank Benjis. We're back with another episode.
Yeah, and today is one that people, might not be expecting. I mean, still very much in the vein of boxing, but a little bit different approach. And you will see that as she's here right now. So let's get her in here. Let me unpin my ugly face here so we can get, and for the first time too, a little, some female blood in here too, which is always nice. Where is she? You got her? Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, it's so great to have you on here. We really appreciate you doing this. For fans that might not know, LISA McCLELLAN, of course, the sister. Well, pretty much, I would like to say, because I know you won't gush over yourself that much, but truly a saint in this world for what you're doing out there for boxers. We've had this debate on our show tons of times about the aftercare and the things that aren't there for boxers after their career. And so obviously your brother, Gerald G-Man McCLELLAN, suffered very unfortunate circumstances in this, in this sport that, we as fans sit back and watch it and are entertained by it. But the aftermath of it can be very harsh. Explain a little bit. First of all, tell us how Gerald is right now.
He is doing wonderful. He is undergoing a treatment protocol where he's under the care of Dr. Mark Gordon, Millennium Health. And what we're doing now is a treatment where we're removing the inflammation from his brain and then balancing the hormones and then giving his brain nutrients that will allow the brain to heal. So we're on our second week of that treatment, and it's been going really, really, really good.
Now, obviously, this was a huge, this takes what you will do for family to a whole new level, because obviously there's been a lot of self-sacrifice on your part here. Talk to me a little bit about how that came to be. I mean, obviously, this is not something, and we spoke, previous to the interview, and I told you that I'm a nurse. I see so mto people in the nursing home that are put there by family members, and they get the obligatory, couple visits a year, very little involvement. Talk to me a little bit about how this relationship with you and Gerald was. I mean, this is obviously a very close bond between you two. Why did you feel that this was yours to undertake?
Well, from the beginning, we didn't know what the future would be. So it was just a matter of everyone stepping in to do what we had to do. And it wasn't until years later we realized that this was going to kind of be the way things were going to be. So I know he needed me, and I've just been here.
And is this stuff that you just learned, like you yourself have any healthcare training at all, or is this just all stuff you kind of learned on the fly?
No, I was actually in nursing school to become an RN when Gerald got hurt.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so now I was reading up, when I was amassing some stuff here to talk to you about. So this program, and I'm assuming that it's still something that you're involved in, Ring of Brotherhood?
Yes, it's actually, I'm the co-founder along with Pastor Kevin Person. We started this 3 years ago, and we wanted to we started an LLC called the Ring of Brotherhood, which is a multimedia company. And we wanted to film fighters that needed help, but we wanted to actually show the progress of filming how we help the fighters. And then we knew we had to finance this project. So we were actually doing a docu-series for Netflix or other networks. So we started the foundation to be able to raise the funds to be able to help get the treatments for the fighters. So I started the Ring of Brotherhood Foundation, Kevin and I, and we started a clinical research committee where we're working with probably 8 or 9 wonderful traumatic brain injury doctors, where we're able to offer treatment plans to the fighters that are in need, whether it be prevention to fighters that are kind of in the same state as Gerald. We're looking into like doing stem cell therapies and peptides and nutrition, and it's several things that I've discovered that could be done that could bring healing to the brain even 28 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, there are certainly, yeah, it's just certainly science and medicine is on the forefront of hopefully being able to, to step in, especially the stem cell, stem cell research. But one thing you've been pretty outspoken about though, is, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, you have been pretty outspoken though about boxing though not really taking care of its own, as far as like, a lot of the revenue, a lot of the pay-per-view, even a lot of the guys up on top who make millions and millions of dollars. And I'm certainly not saying that this is, by any means an obligation to them, but boxing is kind of like a fraternity, a brotherhood, if you will. How does boxing, do you have any ideas in mind where you think boxing, could step in and help these fighters out? I mean, a friend of the show, we've had John Iceman Scully on, who, God bless him, tries as hard as he can getting memorabilia, selling stuff. We've sent him off autograph stuff, just trying to make a dent in it. And you're really out there doing God's work. But how can we fix this on a bigger scale, though?
First of all, about 5 months ago, I've been an advocate for about 14 fighters who the WBC has a foundation that helps fighters. So you apply for a grant every year. A fighter could get up to $10,000. And it's like a 4-page questionnaire you have to fill out. There's some things you have to turn in. And a lot of the guys that were suffering from TBI weren't able to even remember to like turn in the paperwork or submit certain documents. So I started doing that for them. So in doing so, had developed a relationship with the foundation and with Mauricio Suleiman. So when I started the Ring of Brotherhood, I didn't want Mauricio to think that I was launching an attack on boxing.
Right.
So I did a presentation. He loved it. So now the WBC is one of my biggest supporters.
Great.
We've entered into a partnership where he supports the Ring of Brotherhood. I've done a series of PSAs of just keeping boxers safe in the ring. So the PSAs will be played at the weigh-ins. I have an open invitation to all of the WBC fights to talk about the Ring of Brotherhood, to bring awareness. And then I have on May 10th, I have a sports and brain health symposium, which the WBC is very involved. I have several doctors, some boxers, some NFL players. We have a couple guys from the bull riding community. And we're just going to have a symposium to teach the parents, the refs, the cornermen, anybody that's willing to listen, how to prevent injuries, how to provide care for the injuries. We have a panel where the fighters, the athletes can talk to the doctors. One of the biggest issues is these fighters or athletes are having trouble admitting that they're damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of been like boxing's dirty little secret where
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
And it's something that I'm trying to remove the shame from it, because there is no shame. And the only way these guys are going to be able to get help is if they're willing to come forward that they need it.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned early prevention, because I've watched numerous times the fantastic documentary, about the Gerald McCLELLAN, Nigel Benn fight, the events that led up to it. And I do feel like preventatively, though, there was a little bit of failure possibly on Gerald's team. At least that's been kind of bandied about, though. I mean, first of all, do you yourself, being so close to the situation, feel like going into that fight there may have already been pre-existing issues with Gerald?
Probably about 20 years ago, I gotten a letter from one of Gerald's teammates at Crom, and he said, I think Gerald was hurt before the Nigel Benn fight. And the letter kind of upset me because I didn't really know much about brain damage or concussions or any of that. So I said, don't you start rumors. That's not true. Gerald was fine. But just from what I've learned the last 3 years, it's a big possibility, because I remember when Gerald fought Julian Jackson in the first fight. He had they had a headbutt, and Gerald had a very large knot on his forehead, which definitely was a concussion. And there was no time off. There was no healing. He continued. He had 2 fights after that within the year, and then he fought Julian the second time. And then he had 2 more fights, and he fought Nigel. So there was no healing time for the concussion. So what I've learned is if an athlete has a concussion that goes unhealed and he gets a second concussion, it is a precursor for a brain bleed. So it is very possible that he could have had something going on before the Nigel Benn fight.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, because we had him on here, and I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are about, Gerald Jr. and him fighting, and if it's something because of what happened with Gerald Sr., is it something that he doesn't like or you don't like? Or because Gerald Jr. said that he had support from everybody. But I'm just curious to know if it's something that you ever think about in the back of your mind, like, could this happen again?
Well, absolutely. It's something I think about every time he get in the ring. But right now I'm his manager, and I feel like if he's gonna do it, I'll do whatever I can to protect him.
Yeah.
So if I had my wish, he wouldn't do it.
Right.
But I'm just I want to help him make some better choices, and just kind of look out for him. So.
And he's a great kid. He really is. He's
absolutely
fantastic guy, and was very candid on here about the trials that he's been through, and how he's making up for lost time and really trying to jumpstart his career despite being in his early 30s. And he's really covering a lot of ground, and he's definitely a friend of the show. I mean, we absolutely love him and support him all the way. Do you think that well, first of all, obviously boxing fans watch our show, and, as I said, we watch for our entertainment. We gather around the TV, we watch these pay-per-view fights. And I think that we think these guys, in our own sense of being naive, I think a lot of people just think that these guys all end up in ivory towers with lots of money and they're on TV but talk to us a little bit about exactly if you could elaborate on what the fallout was with Gerald. You know what I mean? Like, what are the nature of his injuries? Like, I know he's lost quite a bit of hearing.
No, that's actually not the truth.
Okay.
So he is completely blind.
Okay.
And the area of Gerald's brain that suffered the most damage is the frontal lobe, where your sensories, where like impulse and so he's very volatile. He's very there's a lot of aggression. So we have some major behavior problems. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with his hearing.
Okay.
In the beginning, when that rumor was started, it was because whenever Gerald talked to someone, they had to repeat themselves over and over. So
Right.
people just automatically thought, oh, well, he must be hard of hearing. But really, it was a comprehension. So if you have to kind of slow it down, and then he follows you fine. Like with the kids, their voices are softer, so he's able to understand it, without having the kids having to repeat themselves. So it's definitely not his hearing. But one of the things that we're dealing with this treatment is healing the brain. So one of the major issues that we're working on is the behavior. And so we're balancing the hormones. When the brain is damaged, it gives you a hormonal imbalance. So what we're doing now is we did a series of testing that was probably more complete than any test I've had done or Gerald's had done for the last 28 years. This doctor that we're working with is phenomenal. His work is mainly with soldiers that are suffering from traumatic brain injuries. And I got about that much more work to do to get him to take on the boxers. He keeps telling me that he don't know where he'd fit it in his schedule, but he keeps showing up whenever I need him.
Yeah.
But so in healing Gerald's brain and the behavior is kind of getting better. So once as it heals, then those things are I've noticed his conversations are different. He's able to have more in-depth conversations. It's working. It's definitely working.
That's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I mean,
We're on to something that could help a lot of people.
Yeah. Benji's.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that's phenomenal that there's a doctor that found that. Is this stem cell research?
No, it's kind of like on the same level, but the plan is, so if we started the stem cell treatments, which I do have a couple stem cell doctors that I'm working with. So if we were to just go right directly into the stem cells, there's a lot of stuff that need to be cleaned up. So if we administer stem cells and there's a lot of inflammation, those cells don't survive. So if you kind of clean up the debris, so to speak, the cells have a better chance of survival. So we're just making the brain healthier. So when the opportunity comes, if even need be after this treatment, then the stem cells have a better chance of survival.
That's great. That's great. And is the boxing community in general, does Gerald have a lot of involvement or do a lot of, I mean, obviously I mentioned John Scully, you know, I mean, tries to do like what he can for boxers, but has any of the other boxing community, any of Gerald's peers, does anybody reach out to him? Does anybody reach out to get updates on him or offer
Oh
any
yeah,
kind of help?
we talked to Tommy Hearns, FaceTime. He FaceTime with Michael Moore. Definitely, we have a great relationship with John Scully. John is a wonderful person.
Great guy.
I have a lot more with helping the fighters. Like I started a campaign the other day. We're trying to help Wilfred Benitez get a handicap vehicle.
Yep.
So Yvonne and Wilfred was down. We live 2 hours apart, so we meet up for lunch, and so yeah, we definitely I've been talking with Virgil Hunter and James Prince, and a lot of those guys have stepped up to help us.
That's great. That's great. That's great. And at this stage of where Gerald's at now, does he have any kind of interest at all in the sport still, as far as watching boxing, or has that kind of?
He loves it. It's his life, and I asked him a question the other day, and so since we've been on the treatment, I'm doing a video journal for Joe Rogan.
Okay.
So Joe Rogan is connected to the doctor.
Oh, great.
So we're trying to get Joe, one, to come on board to help, and then just maybe even having me on the show would open so many doors for us.
Definitely.
And what we're doing for the athletes. So I'm doing this video journal that we're going to send to Joe. And in one of the conversations, which I do it every other day, I just record for about 15 minutes conversation between me and Gerald. And I asked him a question the other day. If he knew he would have gotten brain damage, would he still have made the choice to be a fighter? And he said, absolutely. He would do it. He would do it all over again.
Yeah, that's dedication. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can you say about that, right? I mean,
that's a love for the sport.
Yeah, it really is passion.
And it's something that I noticed that's within all of these fighters is their heart. I was talking to Nate Campbell, who's a really good friend of Roy Jones.
Oh yeah, Nate's been on. Yeah, I've had Nate on. Yeah, he's a great guy too. Yeah.
And I asked Nate, it was Roy was getting ready to have another fight. And I said, Nate, why don't you stop him? You know? and he said, Lisa, he said, when it comes to fighting, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
For these guys.
Yeah.
He said, it's no different than a drug addict.
Right.
You know, it's hard to, it's not something they can just walk away from.
And there is a lot of bravado. You do hear a lot of them say, you know, I mean, even with regards to fights being stopped, they always want to, quote unquote, go out on their shield. You know what I mean? They always want to, I'd rather be knocked out than have the fight stopped. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'd rather be flat on my back than have anybody throw in the towel. So, you know, that is the mentality of these guys.
Yeah. I just watched, someone sent me something this morning with James Toney.
Yeah.
Getting ready to have
a fight. Yeah, with Razor Ruddock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And these guys, and I think it is hard for these guys to face. Obviously, they spend so many years in the limelight that sometimes, you know, I think they said it, even that they alluded to it, as far-fetched as it is, in one of the Rocky movies. But, you know, I think Apollo said in one of those Rocky movies, it's tough once the crowd's not there cheering and chanting your name no more, and it's just quiet. You know what I mean? I think these guys are afraid of that, a lot of them.
And then a lot of it is finances, and
Yep.
and if we start taking care of our fighters, they wouldn't be forced to have to continue to do this. So I'm trying to create a movement where we start taking care of these guys. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Maybe even capping their careers too. Like maybe like some of these guys shouldn't have 60, 70, pro fights.
Right. I know. I'm working with one of the speakers at my event in May is the California Commissioner, Andy Foster. And Andy, California is one of probably the only states that offer pension plans to their fighters.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to talk to Andy about is how do we implement that in other states?
Right.
How do we get the other states to, what did he do that he's able to offer the pension plans, and then maybe go from state to state to see if we can get the other commissioners to do the same.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean,
Another person I'm working with too is Paco from the WBO.
okay.
So we're just in the early talks about getting, my goal is to get all the sanctioned bodies involved, all the networks involved, and just start looking after the community, which boxing is considered an underserved community because it's one of the only sports where the athletes aren't looked after.
Yeah. No HMO, no pension plan, no anything for these guys afterwards. Yeah. It's a ruthless sport. It really is. So how does Gerald typically spend his days? What kind of things does he enjoy at this stage of his life?
We do a lot of one-on-one talking, and he's not really interested in music and television, and he loves company. He loves talking on the phone with his friends. He loves visits from like the grandkids, and
Yeah.
we get out. We go out for car rides. We travel. We just had an 18-hour ride. The Ring of Brotherhood received an award at the World Stem Cell Summit for being an advocate for helping the fighters.
Yeah.
So it was an 18-hour ride. So I took Gerald with me. So we get out quite a bit.
That's good. That's good. Well, we really appreciate you coming on here and doing this, and elaborating on all the things you've got going on and all the things you're trying to do. And God bless you, man. I hope that we can find some way, to make the post boxing career lives of these guys a lot better. I mean, you're truly out there. There are saints among us, Benjis. John Tully, this young lady right here, people are trying, man. I mean, we just love the sport so much. I think we take it for granted a lot. We do watch it. As I said, we are entertained by it, but I don't think we give a lot of afterthought, to what condition a lot of these gentlemen wind up in, after their career is over. So, and certainly, please give our best to Gerald. I mean, we are huge fans. We're Team McCLELLAN all the way. We love Gerald. We love Gerald Jr. We love you, young lady.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really
appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on here, man, and all the best to Gerald, please.
Spread the word for the foundation, Ring of Brotherhood Foundation.com.
I will, and when I put the episode up, I'll tag it and I'll put a link in there to it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa. We appreciate you.
Yep. God bless.
God bless you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there she goes. That is a woman right there, much like our good buddy John Iceman Scully, that's really out there doing God's work, man. God bless her. The Ring of Brotherhood. I encourage people to go out and check that out. She's really trying to raise awareness for traumatic brain injuries, and it's not just something that happens in football. We think about concussions in football, or we think about some guy getting beamed in the head with a baseball. But hey, we're really overlooking the obvious. What about the guys that get punched in the head 400 times a night?
Right. Well, I think part of it too is most of the time people perceive athletes as rich.
Yeah.
Most of the time, everybody in the NBA is rich. Everybody in the MLB is rich. Everybody in the NHL is rich.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like they don't have to really worry about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Gerald McCLELLAN Sr. is rich in the fact that he has a loving support network around him and has great people around him. So he's rich in other ways, though, for sure. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, that woman, you know, his sister, LISA McCLELLAN, who we just had on here, our guest today, you know, I mean, you got to think about the self-sacrifice and just what she's given up. And she's a mother and a grandmother herself, you know, I mean, plus Gerald's primary caretaker. So, you know, there's a lot on her plate. And plus, you just heard about all the activism and all the stuff that she's trying to get the ball rolling on and see through all these different projects and you know, trying to raise awareness and going here and going there and, you know, campaigning her cause here and, you know, appealing to this one and trying to get support and trying to get fundage. And I mean, you know, it's an ongoing battle, and God bless her. She's rolled up her sleeves and she's taken it on. And plus, son of Gerald's manager, we found out.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, that was certainly enlightening. And you know what? It's great to hear that Gerald McCLELLAN, who gave us tons of wars. I mean, you know, a lot of people associate him with the Nigel Benn fight, obviously. But, you know, I mean, you know, Lisa, of course, mentioned his epic battles with Julian Jackson, another guy who was a notorious puncher. You know, these guys are not just getting punched in the head, but they're getting punched by other men who train themselves to punch hard. You know, I mean, you know, these guys give so much of themselves, and you know, obviously this is a sport that we're passionate about, or we wouldn't be doing a podcast all about it. So, I mean, you know, kudos. I can't say it enough. Just how great, you know, Lisa McCLELLAN is, and you know, the McCLELLAN family is lucky to have her as a pillar of strength. And you know, hey, I mean, sis is out there getting it done, man.
Yes, she is.
He's out there getting it done, man. So, you know, on that note, this has been another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. Thank you a million times over to Lisa McCLELLAN. All the best to Gerald G-Man McCLELLAN, Gerald Jr. You know, as I told her, man, you know, we're Team McCLELLAN, man.
Yep.
Love them, man.
Shout out her charity one more time, Ring of Brotherhood.
Got
the award at the stem cell research convention or whatever they had.
Yeah, basically they're working with doctors, and you know, the focus is on bringing athlete stories out into the light and raising the awareness for all contact sports, including boxing. Working with doctors, seeing what kind of options are out there. You know what I mean, like through diet, nutrition, holistic medicine, stem cell, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, hopefully we can get to the bottom of it and we can leave these guys in a better place after they've given us years of entertaining. And you know what? I thought I did have a pretty good idea in there. You know, maybe even cap these guys' careers. You know what I mean? Maybe you say, look, everybody gets, you know, 30 fights. And whatever your record is at the end of that is what your record is. You know, if you're 27-3, if you can go 30 fights and not get beat, if you're 28-2, 29-1, I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number there, man. But this might be something where we say, hey, enough is enough. Like maybe these organized, you know, these organized bodies ought to step in and say, okay, you know, we're putting a cap on how long of a career you can have. You know, once you turn pro, you know, the clock starts running. Because some of these guys, man, like they won't quit, and they do like to go out on their shield, and they do have a sense of bravado and masculinity, and some of that is great, but some of that can also be toxic. You know, wherein these guys sometimes don't know when to hang it up, and there's nobody in there to reel them in. Yes, I know they need to get physicals. Yes, I know they need to be checked out and everything, but it seems like there's ways around all that stuff. I mean, boxing has certainly had its share of dirty little secrets, as she mentioned, and a dirty, visceral side to it. So probably anything can be gotten around if you want to make an event happen. You know, I mean, how much are these guys really being checked, though? Obviously, you know, you heard, you know, Lisa mentioned that, you know, she didn't want to believe for the longest that Gerald had anything wrong with him, you know, leading up to that Nigel Benn fight. But those closest to him, who were with him on a daily basis, and you said one of them from Kronk Gym even reached out to her, she said, you know, people weren't so sure that he didn't have possibly some, you know, some prior problems, you know, going into that fight even that weren't addressed. And he didn't have the most, you know, at the time after he parted ways with Emmanuel Stewart, he didn't have the sharpest team around him. It was evidenced in that documentary where he was, you know, I think there was one part of it where he was wrapping his own hands, and he even told the guy doing the documentary, nobody knows what the hell they're doing, you know?
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think that's important too. Having a team around you that can see warning signs, can see when their fighter's not right. What I mean? And not just a cut or, being on Queer Street, as they say, but I'm talking about, really being in tune with like, I know this guy. I know he's not himself right now, even in the subtle little nuances,
Well, man,
Great.
I think it's that time. I think it's that time of the night where we got to quote our great American poet Gary Busey and fellow traumatic brain injury survivor Gary Busey.
Yes, he himself also. Yes, very apropos. Yeah, very apropos. Yep. Shout out to the great Gary Busey, man, who has one of the greatest quotes that you're about to share with us on toughness, that's ever been uttered by man.
And that quote is, "I can go 15 seconds with anything."
Yeah. When confronted with something, any man should be able to go 15 seconds with it. Bear, hippo, rhinoceros, moose.
Listen, I'd take G-Man. I'd take wheelchair bound G-Man over a lot of guys.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I mean, me too. Yeah. And no doubt in his prime, Gerald was the guy that nobody wanted to see. Certainly a very avoided guy, man. I mean, there were people calling him, a middleweight version of Mike Tyson, mini Mike. I mean, a hellacious puncher himself. And, a tough as nails guy, man, who I believe at the time when his career was halted, I can't quote his record for sure, but I only had maybe one loss, 2 losses maybe coming into that Nigel Benn fight. I mean, an incredible specimen of a guy, man.
I was curious. I should have asked her, and I was curious, but I was just so intent on listening to what she was talking about. But
yeah.
I was curious if she saw that guy Pritchard Cologne, to that young guy that got.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, in one of the articles that I was reading about Ring of Brotherhood, he's one of the guys that they, or he's one of the guys that I think they are trying to get help for. I can't remember. I might be crossing up my articles now, but I remember reading something and his name being tied to it, though. So I mean, it strikes me as, how kind and good-hearted, the McClellan clan is there, man. That they're not just looking out for Gerald. They're looking to make this like a widespread thing. You know what I mean? Like, let's help out anybody. And I get the sense that it isn't even just TBI specifically, but, going back to John Scully, just helping out guys who may have fallen on hard times. It could be a little bit destitute, like whether it be a medical procedure or a mortgage payment or, needing help with this or needing help with that. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these guys are left, a shell of their former self. And it isn't right, man, when there's guys on top. And I'm not, again, as I said in the interview, it's not Floyd Mayweather or Oscar De La Hoya or any of these guys that are multimillionaires a million times over, necessarily it's not their obligation to help these guys. But
but dude, if we were taking every $100 million pay-per-view and taking 5 million of it and just putting it to a fighters fund all these years, there'd be a bunch of money.
What a dent would make. Yeah, or even like the sanctioning fees. I mean, even if those were put aside, put into a little kick. I mean, I feel like there's options out there.
Shit though. What I'm saying is, if it's like the Canelo Charlo $100 million fight, dude, we already got that much money on the table. All right, now we got 95.
You can't take 5%. Yeah, you can't.
It's not 100. Now we got 95.
Right, and these ridiculous. And these ridiculous purses where Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor are fighting, and they're both fucking splitting the amount of money that could,
change 1,000 people's lives.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like they could go out and literally buy countries with this money. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, how much does one person need when other people, especially in your particular sport, not even asking these guys, hey, go kick in to all these guys with TBI. In a perfect world, that would be great. But even just taking care of your own, you know what I mean? I do look at boxing as
every NFL and every baseball guy and every, fucking boxing guy, they all just took care of their own.
Yeah. It would be a better place, man. So, yeah, we certainly want to raise awareness to that, man. And Ring of Brotherhood, go check them out, man. Go do your research. Go see what you can do to help. I'm gonna go see what I can do to help, man. I mean, shit, even if it's just fucking, sending something, like, our buddy Iceman, he might go out and sell a piece of memorabilia, and God bless him, he's nickel and diming it and trying to scrape together like what he can. Oh, geez, I made $100 off this autographed glove, but that's good enough to send $20 to like 5 different guys. You know what I mean? Like he's really doing it like, he's really doing it by like, the small steps, but I know that he'd love to do it on a grander scale. You know what I mean? He's working with what he has, I mean.
Dude, it's just like I told Chris Bird, man, when he said his 11 years were lost. It's like, it doesn't matter that he's doing $20 here, $20 there. He's doing $20 more than Floyd or Canelo. He's doing $20 more than everybody.
Yeah, and he's not a guy who made that. And he's not a guy who made that kind of money in his career either. A lot of these guys.
He's doing an interview with us at a regular house, regular guy.
Yeah. Yep. He's not living in the lap of luxury by any means.
A little something, you know what I mean, to where it belongs, where it needs to go.
And I don't know who in the boxing world will see this, man, but this really should be a call to arms, man. It's time that we fix this, man, so we don't have the tragic circumstances that befall.
I mean, come on, dude. These guys are worth $200, $300, $400 million, dude. Like, you can't tell me you don't got a couple million to kick to a foundation right now.
Yeah. Not even a couple million. Not even a couple million, man. Just even if every able-bodied guy who could afford it even kicked in $5,000, $10,000, but you had a sea of boxers doing it, man. I mean, you could really put together, Dude,
I wish I was at a place where I had $5 million to kick to the foundation, because I'd kick it.
Right. Well, because I stop and think, like, look, how many
if I had it, I'd give it.
How many hours have I spent entertained by boxing? I mean, I feel like, I feel the same way. If I had it to give, it almost should be your due diligence, man. These guys have provided me with, I can't even count how many hours. Watching current fights, going back to watching old fights. Gerald McCLELLAN.
Really think about it?
It's still entertaining.
If they would do what we're talking about, take a little money from the ultimate purse and put it to the boxers, wouldn't that ultimately be us doing that anyway?
Sure.
Because there wouldn't be no $100 million fucking fight if we weren't buying it.
I think I'm going to call Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to tell him, look, I bought a lot of your pay-per-views. I want my money back. I put too much in your coffers. Give it back, and I want to mail it elsewhere, out into the world.
Yeah, I want to give all my pay-per-views to Gerald McCLELLAN.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Floyd, I only bought the pay-per-views to see you get your ass kicked, and since you didn't, I want my money back. You didn't lose not one of those goddamn fights, and I want some payback.
No. See, and that's funny that you say that, but it's not even like, seriously, I would have no problem paying the pay-per-view and buying it, just like we did Spence Crawford or whatever. If these guys take a little bit of that money and give it, you know what I mean, to a foundation.
Yeah.
You guys are all getting paid a lot more money than I'm making.
Yeah.
And this is my money anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like,
and so you should fucking.
I mean, I feel like what we did on behalf of Off the Couch Boxing by sending off an autographed glove, it's just such a minuscule dent in a huge problem. You know what I mean? And it is frustrating. You do feel a handcuff.
Yeah, but
I wish I could do more.
Hey, Off the Couch Boxing has put more to the fire than these guys are, dude.
That's true. That's true. I got another glove to ship off to Iceman too.
We don't got it like they do.
No. We got it. We just don't have the money. This podcast has definitely got it.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we don't got it as far as money.
Oh no, we're flat broke when it comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just regular guys, man.
There's a reason we're on the couch.
We're regular guys. We got families.
Yeah. Yeah, but God bless the McCLELLAN clan, and please, people, go out and do your research and realize that if you're a boxing fan, this is a major problem.
I quoted the great American poet Gary Busey like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. So on that note, I'm just going to simply say that if you would like to be a champion,
like and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube. I'm at Frank Benji's, at Rex Ruger on TikTok. All those things. Hit the follow button. We're posting shit. We're talking.
Yeah, and make sure to check us out on Facebook too at Off the Couch Boxing, man. We are out there, man. Tell us what you want to see, who you want to see, what you like, what you don't like. Agree with us, disagree with us, start an argument with us. Irregardless, man. We just like to hear from people, man. So I will say that if you want to continue to be a champion, because in essence, if you found this podcast and you're watching, you already kind of are a champion. And if you'd like to continue to be a champion, or you're currently not one and would like to be one, then if you want to be a champion, then you need to make sure that you roll with the champs.